Welcome back to Critical Corner, unfiltered commentary, not your truth, the real truth. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi folks, welcome back. From Fox News. This is starting to get intense. And this is only May. We have June, July, August, September, and October until the midterms. And God knows what can happen in between then. The battle lines are being drawn. Who's going to pull the first trigger? And I mean that metaphorically, of course. I want to say this at the beginning. I am not calling for violence on the conservative side. But people have a right to defend themselves. So what do? White House encourages peaceful protests, won't tell abortion activists to avoid Supreme Court justices' homes. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said she had no official U.S. government position on where people protest. That's her present to the American people as she leaves the White House and gets a really lucrative job. I believe it's on MSNBC. Was the only time I ever see her on that is when I'm reporting on it or criticizing her, which would be quite often, I have no doubt. Well, thanks, Jen, for that outgoing present. You ass. You can't say, do not protest at Supreme Court justices' homes. You can't say that. It's amazing to me. So what do we do as conservatives? We know damn well if they step over the line at the homes and not even injure anybody, it's either going to be, I doubt if it's going to be in the District of Columbia, will probably be in Virginia and or Maryland, where they live. It's hard to say. It depends on the municipality. It depends on the district attorney. It depends whether it's in federal court or local county criminal court. It depends. Justice is served unfairly, the liberals say. You're absolutely right. It's served unfairly in their favor. The White House on Thursday declined to encourage abortion activists to avoid protesting at private residences of Supreme Court justices as outrage over a leaked draft opinion overturning Roe v. Wade grows. This is, I hope we don't get a John Brown activist. And anybody that knows, John Brown was basically, as the powder keg was filling up with more and more powder, he was one of the sparks that lit the powder that exploded into the Civil War. I feel in my mind the Civil War is the worst thing that ever happened to this country. Did some good coming out of it in the end? Yes. It is the biggest tragedy by far in the history of this country. Give you an idea. If we punch in the percentages of by population to then and now, there would be 6 million dead in 4 years. 6 million. And they didn't die of a disease or old age or a heart attack or a stroke or cancer. They died in war. One of the worst ways to go. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said President Biden understands and shares the outrage over the news that the Supreme Court may vote to undo Roe, which essentially legalized abortion nationwide. But getting rid of Roe does not take away the legalization of abortion. No, these morons, but of course, that doesn't fit their narrative. The president, for all those women, men who feel outraged, who feel scared, who feel concerned, he hears them. He shares that concern, that horror that he saw in that draft opinion. Well, by the way, it was then Senator Biden, I believe, that said that Roe v. Wade was flawed law. Roe v. Wade never should have stood, but it did. It's funny how all of them said that. Even indirectly, Bill Clinton. It's amazing to me. Biden's message directly to anyone feeling outraged is participating in peaceful protest. Psaki said, ensure it's peaceful, have your voice heard peacefully. Why should not be resorting to violence in any way, shape, or form? Several hundred heated protests occurred in front of the Supreme Court. That I'll give them. I'll give them. There's a Supreme Court building there. The house part of it. They're putting fencing up. You want to protest there? Protest away. You want to act like a goof with your ridiculous signs and try to justify something as horrendous as this? It's certainly your prerogative. But not the homes of justices. Not the relatives and friends and children. That's intimidation. That's what third world banana republics do. This is supposed to be the shining city on the hill as far as constitutional government goes. Oh, God. Several heated protests occurred in front of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. following the leak of Justice Samuel Alito's draft opinion that would undo Roe, prompting police to put up barriers around the building. Fox News' Peter Doocy on Thursday brought up Biden's statements earlier this week, calling the MAGA crowd the most extreme political organization in recent history. Do you think the progressive activists that are now planning protests outside the justice's home are extreme? Doocy asked Psaki. Fair question. Peaceful protest, no. Peaceful protest is not extreme. We certainly encourage people to keep it peaceful, not to resort to any level of violence. And that's the standard statement, and everybody believes that. Doocy pressed whether Biden viewed the posting of home addresses of justices, some of whom have young children, as peaceful expression of a protest. The president, I love this answer. The president's view is that there's a lot of passion, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness from many, many people across this country about what they saw in the leaked document. And there's a lot of people that are happy, that are passionate as well, that have finally said, yeah, let's take a look at a couple of Twitter posts just to give you an idea. Some Jack Posobiec. Just checking on that left, on the left, and holy Schleet. Simon Gwynn. What a piece of work he is. Interesting real knife trolley problem in America now. If you had the chance to KILL, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, the two oldest right-wing Supreme Court judges, should you do it while Biden can get his nominees to replace them confirmed? It's an interesting as an abstract question, but becomes a real conundrum if, say, you're terminally ill and have little to lose yourself, but know that it could save many women's lives in the future. Why isn't it? This is criminal. This is incitement of violence. This is something none of the January 6th so-called insurgents did. None. Yet here this clown is. Here he is. This is what Elon Musk was talking about in Twitter. Is this up to the line? You bet your ass it is. What do we do about things like this? I'm a free speech, almost absolutist. I want you to think for a minute. Think back maybe 2 or 3 years ago. If a conservative person had posted, I love his Ukraine flag, since when did progressives become warmongers? But 2 or 3 years ago, and we switched around the names and put in Ginsburg, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Interesting real-life trolley problem in America now. If you had the chance to KILL, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the oldest left-wing Supreme Court judge, would you do it while Trump was in office so we can get his nominee to replace that person confirmed? And then you fill in the blanks with all the rest. You just switch the names around. There would have been hell of a pay. But for left-wing circles, this moron is a hero. Let's look at his next post. Oops. I've removed my recent 2 tweets about the U.S. Supreme Court, as on reflection, they're obviously pretty irresponsible, though I don't think that would be against Twitter's terms of service. You put on there about Hunter Biden's laptop, you were excommunicated from Twitter. This clown, specifically 2 Supreme Court justices by name, violence, not against the terms of service. For your information, I don't endorse murdering anyone, but don't think there's anything wrong with thought experiments. How about we do this thought experiment? How would you like it if some conservative person, everybody that posts similar tweets like you, goes in camps, and we give you redoctrination, a.k.a. torturing like you do in the old days, and then you just disappear off the face of the earth? People would be outraged. But it's just a thought experiment. You ass. They want violence. They're using intimidation to intimidate justices. That is unlawful, period. Thought experiment. You ass. But what do? What do you do as conservative-minded people that try to follow the rule of law? What do you do? How do you fight back from this? And when I say fight back, I mean within the rules. Well, the problem is there are no rules. The rules change every single week. Unbelievable. Home addresses, Supreme Court justices. That's insane. I wish that fence was farther back to give them more room so we'd have to hear these morons inside. A pro-abortion group reportedly plans to protest at the Maryland and Virginia homes of some of the Supreme Court justices. In response to Ducey's question whether the president cared about protests near justices' homes, Psaki declined to discourage any residential protests. She can say, well, I didn't encourage it either. Do you think those people weren't going to go if I said don't go? Well, you could have said it anyway, but you didn't. Why? Because you agree with it. You agree with it. I love this. I don't have an official U.S. government position on where people protest. Really? Interesting. How about we take all the large Planned Parenthood offices / clinics that are in some of the highest percent of population of blacks in this country in the big cities, and we surround them with protesters. And then what we do is everybody that works there, especially the ones in charge and the doctors inside, we dox all their addresses. You would have no problem with that? Huh. I'll bet you would. I'll bet you would. This two-tier justice system has to stop. They're playing with fire. And when a fire spreads, who knows who it can burn? Both good and bad. We want, of course, to be peaceful, and certainly the president will want people's privacy to be respected. Well, it's okay to surround their home and their neighborhood with people protesting and make their life a living hell, as long as they respect their privacy. You ass! But I think we shouldn't lose the point here. The reason people are protesting is because women across the country read about their fundamental rights and that have been law for 50 years. Their rights to make choices about their own bodies, their own health care at risk, blah, 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 blah. That's why people are protesting. They're unhappy. They're scared. It's fundamentally flawed law. It never should have been passed. But it was. By the same side, mind you, of the progressives before she was born. This is just carrying over. Even left-wing people say that are really truthful about the law and know the law say this is flawed law. Has been for a long time. I live in New York State, upstate New York. And there, of course, the Hochul and all the Republicans here are all running their mouths about women's health issues. Every single woman in the state of New York concerning abortion, even if this is overturned, zero will change from currently. As my cousin says, 0.00 will change. In the vast majority of states, there's a bill before I did a video on it in Virginia where they asked a young lady, a hypothetical according to her bill, that a woman was obviously starting to give birth, going into labor. And he even said dilating. Under your proposed bill, Can a doctor say for the mental health or the physical health of the woman while she's dilating to abort the baby? And she said there is no restriction. This is why in the end they'll lose. But they're going to, then every single time the Supreme Court takes on a case that's splitting the country, and that's their job. I mean, in all fairness, we all can't take the fun cases. The cases that are difficult to make choices to, you have to use logic and reason. That's what law is about, is not emotion. To dox their addresses. You want to protest the Supreme Court building, do it till the cows come home. In fact, I remember these asses that when they stormed the Hart building, took over every single floor in the Hart building. And for those of you who don't know what the Hart building is, that's basically the office buildings of the Senate of the United States. Took over every floor and every office in protest. Yet not one of them was charged with insurrection. They shut down a branch of government, the U.S. Senate. And not one was charged. I'm sure there was some stuff busted. None of them were charged. And then later that day, you see the videos of them pounding on the front door of the Supreme Court screaming. Luckily, it's a big, huge door. They couldn't get in. Because the security there is a lot different. It's a lot smaller, complex than the Capitol. All those were so-called insurrectionists, and not one was even charged, let alone convicted. Psaki again declined to state whether Biden supported any limits on abortion, even up to the moment of birth. Declined to comment on even that. An activist organization called Ruth Sent Us, a reference to former Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, published the parent home address of Justice Amy Coney Barrett, John Roberts, Sam Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, and Clarence Thomas, and Neil Gorsuch. Gee, how come they didn't post the other three? Encourage peaceful demonstrations, not at their home. And ironically enough, Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg, rest her soul, implied directly that Roe v. Wade from the 1970s was a flawed decision. She said so repeatedly, and so have many, many, many other chief justices. Our 6-3 extremist court routinely issues rulings that hurt women, racial minorities. Show me a ruling that hurts racial minorities that they've made in the last 20 years. One will do. One. Not your opinion, like a voter ID. Well, that goes against racial minorities. No, it doesn't. Just because you think it does and say it does because you have no other thing to grasp at doesn't make it true. This is the same Supreme Court, or most of it, that okayed gay marriage. Now, I'm a coin toss on gay marriage. I don't have a problem with gay or lesbians. It doesn't bother me a bit. They are what they are, and they do what they do, and God bless them. Let them live their lives. But the marriage part, I'm not so sure on. I'm on the edge on that one. I'm 50-50. We must rise up to force accountability using a diversity of tactics. You don't have to be a linguist to figure out what that means. The leaked draft of the opinion on Dobbs, and of course, well, now it's not the final opinion, which is expected in late June or early July before the U.S. Supreme Court term ends. You can't even say, President Biden, and your mouthpiece, Jen Psaki, as she's going out the door with a whole crap load of money in her pocket from MSNBC, she stood by you for a year and a half. I will say this, in a possible situation, the little bit of credibility she did have, she threw away by being your press secretary, but I digress. Can't even support any limits on abortion up until the moment of birth? Can't answer the question. Which we all know is, we know that it means, yes, I do support limits on abortion, especially up to the moment of birth, but I can't say so because the little bit of a base I have left is 90% of my approval rating, and I can't scare them off and have them be pissed at me. So all the rest of us have to suffer. It's incredible to me. Absolutely incredible. And here we are. We have a sitting president of the United States through his mouthpiece, the press secretary, won't even say don't protest at homes of Supreme Court justices. If you do so, do it peacefully. Just disrupt their lives for God knows how long. How many Secret Service agents are we going to tie up on this nonsense? As the Supreme Court justice's wife or husband goes to a grocery store or goes golfing, or one of their kids goes to school or goes to a baseball game. How much security are they going to have to walk around? For God knows how long. It's not so far-fetched to say that 10, 20 years from now, you're going to get some nut that's going to be a relative or a child of one of these justices after their father or mother is long gone from the court to have something happen to them. So how many generations do we have to protect? It's insane and it's stupid. The official version is this, Mr. President. If you had any balls, you'd say so. You want to protest outside the Supreme Court office building? Be my guest. Constitution allows that. Do not protest outside the personal residences of these justices or any employees or law clerks. Period. To do so will put yourself at risk legally. You don't have the right to disrupt their personal lives. You want to protest, say a business is doing something, but you don't have the right to go to their employees' homes and protest there. Why is it any different? They're pushing this, and they're pushing this, and they're pushing this. And one side is going to do and say something incredibly stupid, probably the left, but no guarantee. And once that floodgate opens, there's no stopping it. No stopping it. Even Jefferson Davis, the newly appointed president of the new Confederate States of America, thought the firing on Fort Sumter was little to nothing, would amount to nothing. Well, we saw what happened after that. 600,000 dead, over 1 million wounded, disabled forever, minds shattered, bodies shattered. The entire southern economy, what they had in shambles, took them over 100 years to recover. They thought was going to be nothing. So we're going to see what spark ignites all this. And when the right, when the so-called conservatives, when they eventually rise up, there's going to be hell to pay. I just don't know what. And I hope cooler heads prevail, but I wouldn't bet my house on it. Until the next time, goodbye and good luck.